We're joined now by media consultant and political affairs analyst, Dr. Ibrahim Modibo. Thanks for joining us on Newsnight. Well, you heard what the former vice president says. He says, I'm not going to talk politics. This is a courtesy visit. But one thing we know about politicians, they don't make courtesy visits for fun, especially when they go with a delegation of other top politicians. What's your sense of this meeting, this 2-hour closed-door meeting between former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and the former President Olusegun Obasanjo?
Thank you very much. Good evening, Nigerians, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Kechi and Deswa, for inviting me to this program this evening. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is a high-profile politician, a grassroots mobilizer, a liberal philanthropist, and also one person that could be termed as an aristocrat within the confines of Nigerian politics. Atiku Abubakar's visit to former President Olusegun Obasanjo should not be taken for granted, knowing the profile of the man Atiku Abubakar. He has been a serial presidential contender. He's never tired of contesting for the presidency of this country. And this time around, just as usual, he has gone to meet the former president, I'm sure, to discuss politics. It couldn't have been a tea party, or maybe he just went for a courtesy visit. No.
For 2 hours.
It has to do for 2 hours. It has to do with strategizing for 2027 elections. Atiku has learned one lesson. Prior to this time, in the years gone by, he used to, after elections, he used to go to Dubai and just while off and they have some rest. But this time around, he has been in Nigeria, he has not traveled to anywhere, meeting people that matter, meeting people of substance, to make sure that is on ground and also offer the much needed opposition to the ruling class. Now, as a former president that wants to still contest, I'm sure the visit has to do a lot, because he has even taken some of his political associates that matter.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about that, because we talked about strategizing. You feel that the former vice president is strategizing, but when you look at the entourage with him today, such as Senator Tambuwal, Sokoto State, former Governor Leo Imoke, someone will ask, what really is the strategy here? They are all former governors and not serving governors who are seen to wield political power in the political landscape in Nigeria. So how much of a strategy was that? What was the thinking behind those gentlemen accompanying him, in your own view?
You see, there is no politician that is worth his salt. Any politician of character and distinction will never go to anywhere alone. That's why former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, wherever you see him with some of his associates that matter politically, whether we like it or not. Tambuwal, former governor of Sokoto State, Leo Imoke, Senator Abdul Ningi, that have formed this backup for former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, they are not in any way, considered as lightweight politicians in Nigeria. Therefore, to me, it is very strategic in thinking, and as 2027 is just by the corner, Atiku has been pushing the boundaries of politics that inspires a lot of people. Bear in mind that in trying to build bridges, not only across oceans, but he built bridges across streams and rivers. You'll agree with me that recently, you can see him transversing from one area of the country to the other, meeting people. In fact, even last week, he went and met the former governorship candidate of Adama, Senator Aisha Binani, a very high-profile politician, a woman of great substance, who could have been the governor of Adama, if not for some reasons here and there. So to tell you that he's even courting people in other parties, Binani belongs to APC. But because she has been abandoned after the contest, now he's trying to go in full throttle to make sure that he gets people of substance and character from all the parties. You can see him moving to former presidents, meeting people left, right, and center. I can tell you, even political class here, meeting with Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, Kwankwaso, Dr. Rabi Kwankwaso, and others. The only person they have not met for so far is President Bola Metinubu. I'm sure maybe he might have the thinking of going to meet him, because I know Atiku. He has a passion and compassion for this country. He wants to rule this country. Whether 2027 is going to be the answer, it's a big question that remains to be answered. But however, the way I look at this issue, it is high time. Although the politics have not started full swing, but there are several meetings, I can tell you, as a political journalist with almost 4 decades of experience, because I even covered the 1979 elections, I can tell you that they are on the ground, on the peelings within the political class that have been meeting. You know, politicians are meeting in the night, maybe dead of the night, towards 3, 4, 5 a.m.
So they're laying the groundwork.
Exactly.
And it's not too early to start planning towards 2027, 2031. I wanted to ask you, just because of the points that you've been making, so in your view, it extends beyond even seeking for maybe former President Olusegun Obasanjo's endorsement. It's even, these visits are more of sort of neutralizing any potential opposition for the former vice president, in your view?
No. You see, any politician that wants to court, the friendship of other politicians should not take any politician lightly, whosoever you are. And this movement, especially with his team to former president, is very, very strategic for very obvious reasons. I can tell you one, that former President Olusegun Obasanjo, whether we like it or not, is an institution. He's even an oracle within the Nigerian context of politics. So almost every politician that matters, you can see former presidential aspirant, Peter Obi has gone to him. I don't think there's any politician in this country that is worth his salt that will not have the influence of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, because he's a detribalized Nigerian, a well thought out leader, a leader of conscience and compassion. And this is one leader that has a lot of followership across board. He has left an indelible mark in the sands of time in politics of this country, bearing in mind that he has presided over this country as president, as former head of state, and what have you. So he has tentacles spread everywhere.
Great.
And therefore, it is time for any politician that wants to do anything, he will go to him. Because today, as it is, Adeso will agree with me, that the current administration has left a lot of vacuum, in the sense that there are a lot of loopholes. They've not been able to meet the yearning aspiration of Nigerians. We can see that there is administrative neglect in social infrastructure, squalor, lack of employment opportunities, general insecurity and malaise, poverty and squalor. And then this is just coming in the midst of plenty, paradoxically. Therefore, now is the time. They've seen these loopholes. Any politician that sees a loophole, even if it is a tiny loophole, he will try to move through so as to get a wider haul in trying to implement what he wants to do.
Greg, you said a lot of things, including President Obasanjo's historically playing a role in shaping the political landscape and still wielding that influence, your own view. But when former Vice President Atiku Abubakar says this is a courtesy visit, and you have said politicians hold their meetings at night, he goes in broad daylight. What kind of message do you think he was hoping to push? Because this was done in broad daylight, he didn't go alone. A courtesy visit probably could have got alone. He didn't go alone. What was the message? Also, I wanted to ask you, because these two gentlemen have had fractured relationship over the years as president and vice president, both of them, talking about Obasanjo and Atiku. And then you see them coming together. Some will perhaps say the Peter Obi factor might be at the center of all of this. As you recall, former President Olusegun Obasanjo threw his weight behind Peter Obi of the Labour Party in the 2023 election. And there's been talks about coalition. We've also heard from Peter Obi recently saying he's not going to join any coalition if it is self-centered. So could this be a Peter Obi factor pulling these gentlemen together? If you could hazard a guess, I mean, why was this meeting in broad daylight? What was really discussed in your own view? And what message is it passing to the Tinubu administration? You
see, in my study of politics, or what is known to scholarship and learning in politics, you'll agree with me that in politics, there is no permanent friend, no permanent enemy. The only person that has defied this logic is the FCT minister, Wike. Wike has permanent enemies, but no permanent friends. So, to me, logically, if you look at even the problems associated with Atiku, is politics. They will sit in the night, sit together, discuss issues, and also iron out issues. So, I strongly believe that politicians don't underestimate the power and influence of them meeting together to iron out their issues. Now, coming to the former presidential, or the former 2023 presidential decision of Labour Party, Peter Obi. Peter Obi is an institution. He's a man of character and decision, and is somebody that has been able to leave an indelible mark. He has also performed as a governor. Whether we like it or not, Peter Obi has been able to raise the profile of governance, of democratic process in this country. Therefore, he could not be sheltered away. Now, these meetings, I can tell you, they are trying to, who knows? Maybe another neutral candidate might likely emerge. Who knows? But then, as it is today, every one of them will be courting, trying to go after politicians to make sure, if they want to save this country from the current doldrums of this issue of poverty and squalor, where people don't even have food to eat, and we've seen, the general malaise in terms of infrastructure facilities, nothing is happening. So if they want to leave a lasting this in our democratic process, this is time for them to come together to make sure that they form a team, just like what ACN, ANPP, and what have you did under Goodluck Jonathan to push him out of power. Now this is the time for them to sit down together, to iron out the differences if they have, then they coalesce, come together, and then offer structural and meaningful opposition to the government.
Because when you visit a former president such as Olusegun Obasanjo, it's symbolic, and we're just trying to imagine what exactly was discussed in that meeting, even though former Vice President Atiku Abubakar insists it's a courtesy call. Apart from the Peter Obi factor, which I asked you, some wonder, perhaps was it also to ask or plead with former President Olusegun Obasanjo to intervene in the PDP crisis, because one string is actually pulling through all these characters that we saw today. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto State, Leon Moke of Cross River State, and even the former president himself, even though he said he's no longer a politician, he was one time a PDP president in this country. Could it be the PDP crisis that was discussed today? Is that a possibility? That's
why this was, right from the word go, I told you there are political underpinnings to this visit, whether we like it or not. Although there's no art of finding the mass construction on the face, but talking from the lips, if you are well read in terms of aggregating the opinions of the lips, you will find out that, look, it has got to do with a lot of things that has to do with politics. One of them, you brilliantly brought it out, the issue of PDP. Although former President Olusegun Obasanjo is no longer a member, but still he wields a lot of influence. And apart from that, central to this visit, as far as the political thinking of people of like minds, people that have been tested and trusted within the political cycle, especially journalists, there is political underpinnings. It has to do with PDP, 2027, and also within the confines of what is happening in Nigeria today, so as to save the country from the current economic doldrum, from the current insecurity, from the current poverty and squalor, and also from the current problems associated with good governance in this country. Today, Nigerians are suffering. They are angry and they are hungry. And therefore, we need to have a government that will be able to come up and then correct some of these fundamental problems. Because, as I've stated, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has so many, has about a year or two, by his side. So if he's able to correct some of these problems as well with economy, security, food, placing food on the tables of the people, and also looking at the general welfare and well-being, provision of social infrastructure in this country, he will be able to be a kind of a mechanic that will be able to tighten the bolts of
putting his feet to fire. Dr. Ibrahim Modibo is a political affairs analyst and a media consultant. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Adeswa. Thank you, Kechi.